Video should not be viewed by anyone under the age of 14 as we deal with mature subject matter. Thank you. Viewer discretion is advised. What can I record a video of today? I've already covered most of those. I already covered that one. Yep, done that one. I haven't read that one yet. I've recorded those. This isn't really an anime manga channel. Already recorded that. Wait a second. I've got it. Welcome back, folks. So, as promised, I've got a big review planned. We have these. What is this, you're asking? Well, you're probably not asking that because it's in the title. It's Marvel Season 1, the whole collection, the whole shebang. Basically, Marvel, did the usual, and they took most of their main characters, and they retold the origin, pretty much, of them, and for newer audiences. That's the gist of the whole thing. Now, the first one I heard of was, of course, Spider-Man by Colin Bunn. I heard that was really good, so I decided to take a look at it. Or at least when I had the chance, I would take a look at it. And I was at Free Comic Book Day about a year ago is when I got this. And I got the Fantastic Four, got the Wolverine, I got Daredevil and Iron Man. So I got all those, and I read them, and that's pretty much the ranking of them right there. But we'll get into that. But I got those, and then later I saw that there was more, so I picked those up. Because I'm like, hey, why not have the whole set? Because I'm a crazy person, just collect the ones that I don't even really like or know about. Like Doctor Strange and Ant-Man. Oh well. But we'll get into those. So number one, of course, is Spider-Man. I think this is the best one. And there's the back. Pretty good picture. Especially as a Spider-Man fan, I love this book. Of course, it changes some things. I feel like it kind of goes a bit more into the origin than, of course, Amazing Fantasy, obviously, because that was 11 pages, or 12 pages. So, this kind of, I feel like this is a bit more, it's got more nuance and stuff to it. Again, it's the basic Spider-Man stuff, but for the most part, it's pretty good. We got, like, some jokes and stuff, because there's some girl, there she is right there, Catty Kernan, maybe is how you say it. I could be mispronouncing that, but there she is, and there's some jokes involving her. She's like some sort of reporter that the Daily Bugle hires to, get the scoop on Spider-Man. But yeah, as a Spider-Man fan, it's pretty good stuff, because it goes over, of course, Amazing Fantasy 15, and then it goes over the first, the first issue, not with the Fantastic Four, but with the Vulture. I'm getting it mixed up in my head. It should be the first issue, because it's Chameleon and Vulture. It's like a double, yeah. Is that the second one? Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. But, yeah, because I think it's like the first couple issues, because the first one he saves John Jameson from, but, yeah. So it goes over the first appearance of the Vulture, and it goes over Spider-Man's origin, and it has a lot of, at least I found a lot of callbacks to the issue with the Vulture. It has the same arc, if you will, the same, style, and then, of course, with most of these, again, I'll get into a couple of them, But they each have their own, like, I'm pretty sure these are just like stories that were coming out at the time that were like popular or like had a new team on them. Because we have here Avenging Spider-Man by, I don't know, somebody. So that's Avenging Spider-Man #1. Not a bad read. But yeah, this is definitely my favorite one, for sure. Then my second favorite one is the Fantastic Four one. This one, especially, it's pretty much like the main reason I love Fantastic Four, not this specific book, but just the way that like you can write the stories. Because again, they're Marvel's first family. They're written like a family. They're fantastic. This one I felt was a little too long, personally, because it goes over like a couple. I don't know. It felt like it was a long book to me, long read, but I still enjoyed it. And then we also have one of those, which one is this? This has Jonathan Hickman on his first issue of the Fantastic Four. That was also pretty good. So that's in the back of that one. Then we had Wolverine. This one was, I don't know, not too bad. The art looks interesting to me. See right there. And this was another one I thought was a little too long. But again, overall it was pretty good. Of course, this one, I think, takes some liberties. Again, I'm not like a Wolverine professional. I'm not a Wolverine connoisseur or anything. I know like the basics. I know he appeared in the Incredible Hulk. But again, this one is a little long. But it's kind of funny. It goes over some of like the bad aspects of Wolverine. Maybe like not bad, but like kind of goes over his anger. Like that's kind of like, I feel like, the driving point of the book, which is kind of neat. Kind of goes over his anger and tries to like gets him to calm down a little bit. And he falls in love with a red-haired girl, like you do. So that was, I would assume, obviously a nod to the Jean Grey and Scott kind of love triangle thing. And the one in the back of this is X-Men 25, 2013, Wolverine and the X-Men. And again, that was another good read because it goes over Wolverine trying to train the X-Men, and they go to the Savage Land. Pretty good stuff. And then we have the Avengers. It is kind of weird because for the Marvel Season 1, they have all the Avengers except for Captain America. Which I guess is fair. Maybe they couldn't find a writer that wanted to take on the story. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they didn't want to rewrite the story of Captain America because it's so like iconic or whatever. But I feel like that's one you should rewrite because that's one of those ones that, like, I mean, granted, sure, it takes place in a certain point in history, but also if we look at people's their perception of Captain America, like they usually kind of, maybe not with the MCU that came out, but like before the MCU, like I know my art teacher said he hated Captain America because he was too perfect, and like, you know, he doesn't like Superman because he's too perfect. You know, people, I feel like, kind of conflate Superman and Captain America into the same person because they're just, you know, too aspirational or whatever. But on to the story. This one is kind of interesting in the way that most of the ones are origin stories. This one takes place after the Avengers first meet up. You get like a brief like synopsis of the first appearance of the Avengers, about how they beat Loki, and then they kind of are doing their separate thing, and they get brought back together. And also this one's really weird because it's got like, I want to say like 3 different artists on it or something. Like 2 different artists, which is kind of weird. Maybe, is it 3? Maybe, I think it's like 3. But yeah, that can be a little jarring at times. I would say all the art's good, but when you go from like 2 different styles, you can definitely tell the difference for sure. But yeah, this one's pretty good. It kind of just goes over their first appearance, and then Loki is captured, and then there's they have trust issues is the main thing I'm trying to get to. But yeah, it goes over the Avengers' trust issues and why they should work together and whatnot. And in the back of this one, we have, and I'm trying not to spoil these books because I've had complaints in the comments that I spoil books, which is fair. But yeah, so I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to be as basic as possible. In the back of this one, we have Avengers #1, I'm pretty sure, by Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley, the wonderful team that brought you Ultimate Spider-Man. So that is definitely a treat. I enjoyed the first issue of that. I definitely should probably pick up a trade or an omnibus of that sometime. We have Thor, Season 1. This one is pretty good. Not too bad. I personally feel like maybe they got the powers too quickly. Or Thor got his powers too quickly. I don't know. I mean, granted, I know you probably wouldn't want to read a whole book about Thor like being powerless, like kind of like, because the first movie, put me to sleep because it was so boring. At least from memory, because I don't think he has powers to like, it felt like halfway through or something. I don't know. It felt like a long movie. It was boring, and you don't want to do that with this book, and they didn't. But I don't know. Maybe I'm impossible to please because it felt like he got his powers kind of quickly. And then he kind of like had to go through like figuring them out and everything. But again, I mean, would you rather have a boring book or would you rather have him get his powers too early? It's up to you. Because at least like they make it interesting because he has to figure out what the powers mean and how to use them and stuff. So that was at least interesting. And yeah, just the origin of Thor and Jane Foster and all that stuff. Pretty good, I would say. And then, in the back of this one, we have Thor God of Thunder 2013, which I believe is the Jason Aaron run. So we have the first issue of that, and that was pretty interesting because it looks like it's a mystery. So, yeah, pretty cool. And of course, that leads into Jane Foster Thor, which everyone seemed to hate. At least, I didn't see anybody saying anything good about it. But it could be good. I definitely liked at least the first issue of that because that was Thor was solving a mystery and it was really interesting. I don't know how I feel about the arts, but at least in the Jason Aaron book, but probably can't see that. But it was a pretty interesting story. Then we have the Hulk. This one I thought was really interesting because I do like the Hulk a lot. Probably like my second favorite Avenger. But this one was interesting because, I don't know, it seemed like they had a lot of new characters in it. Like they made their own villain. It says that on the back, so it's not really like a spoiler or anything. But they like made their own villain. And there is some interesting, they give like the Hulk some meaning. Granted, I've heard of it before, but like they take like his abuse with his dad and kind of conflate that into the Hulk, which is real interesting. And yeah, there's some new characters. And yeah. Granted, I felt like this one kind of bored me a little bit because there were parts of it that were just like, I don't know, dealing with the bad guy. And since it's not like, it wasn't like the Abomination or anything, it kind of like just bored me. I don't know. I didn't really seem to care about the villains. But because especially like when you start, granted, at the end the villain is interesting and it becomes, it becomes harder to read with the panels because I feel like the monster's too weird and you can't see what's going on. But it also becomes more interesting because you know who the villain is, so it's, there's a stake into it. But then when it starts, I just kind of was bored with the villains because, I don't know, there's some like communist villain, I'm not sure who he is, I can't remember his name. But there's some like weird like robots, and there's just like some anti-capitalist bad guy, can't remember his name. So I don't know if he's in the original comics or not, but he was boring as heck and he was only like there for a couple pages and they killed him off. I'm like, okay. And then, but yeah, that's pretty much the gist of that one. And in the back of this one, we have Jason Aaron's run on the Hulk. Yeah. So we have issue number 1, right? Yeah. 2011, Jason Aaron's run on the Hulk. So that was pretty good to read too. Especially because the ending was interesting. But, yeah. Then we have the X-Men. This one was, I don't know, this one I think I was the most excited to read about. And it was the most disappointing. Well, maybe not that. We'll get to that one later. It was the second most disappointing one. This one was interesting because they take it from Jean Grey's perspective, and they do some different like time lapses and things, and of course there's like some trust issues, and I would argue they maybe don't go into like as heavy as they could have with the mutant allegory. And granted, I know like maybe that's overdone. That'd be a fair point. And maybe you don't want to go too into it because it can become like boring or whatever. Fair enough. I don't know. I always thought that'd be interesting, especially because again, if you're gonna rewrite it for a different audience, because I mean this is like only the one story. I don't think they made a season 2 or anything. So I think if you're gonna write this for like a new audience, like a graphic novel, like a one-time shot, one thing, then you'd want it to carry the same weight as you would the original comics. So I feel like they could have leaned into the mutant, racial, Jewish minority thing a little more. But yeah, they have like some time lapses, and it's all from Jean Grey's perspective. And I don't know. It's got some funny moments in there. But, and I don't know. I don't know if they made Jean Grey as interesting as they could have, because I feel like her main thing is just kind of like dating. Granted, I guess she's in high school. I don't know. And I feel like they didn't play into like the teenage aspect of it a lot. I don't know, because the way they start it, they talk about like, this is really crazy that I'm in high school and dealing with this bad guy. And then at the end, they do the same thing. And I feel like, I don't know. Granted, I honestly never read the original X-Men comics, so it could be about the same. But, yeah. And at the end, it gets kind of anticlimactic, because just the way they wrote the story. But again, overall, it's not a bad read, and things get wrapped up in kind of like a nice bow, but leave it open-ended for more. But, of course, there is no more, so oh well. And then in the back of this one, we have Uncanny X-Men 2011, number 1, by somebody. There's a person that wrote the book, and they did the writing. And how was the book? I don't know. It was it was okay. who wrote it. Kieran Gillen. So that is Uncanny X-Men 2011, #1. By Kieran Gillian. It was, I don't know, uneventful, I guess you could say. Didn't really like strike me any certain way. X-Men are in like San Francisco, and nothing really happened. I mean, okay, things happen because Mr. Sinister is trying to like control these like robots or like statues or something. But it was just like the main start of it, so like nothing super major happened beside that. And then on to Doctor Strange. This one I was the most unsure of. I think it's got some really good art, as you can see by the back cover there. I really like the artwork. And I've seen the movie, of course, but like, I've never really read any Doctor Strange comics. So I don't know. It was interesting. I barely kind of understood it, but I feel like they kind of glossed over most of the, I don't know, interesting aspects of Doctor Strange, in my opinion. Because they didn't go over like his Tony Starkisms, if you will. Can't think of arrogance. There we go. That was a hard one to think of. But they didn't like, go over his arrogance and his grandiose doctorisms like they could have. But he basically just tries to get these magic amulets. And granted, as much as I like the artwork, again, it's kind of hard to tell what's happening, so that kind of put it lower on my list. But overall, it's not a horrible story. As a Doctor Strange fan, it was meh. Maybe not a fan, but as a newcomer, I was like, it doesn't really make me want to read a bunch of Doctor Strange. It doesn't really get me in the mood to read Doctor Strange. But oh well. But in the back, I really liked it because there was who wrote this story? Matt Fraction. I've always wanted to read his Hawkeye run, but never got around to it. But Matt Fraction, we have his first issue of The Defenders, and that was pretty awesome. There was a lot of good jokes in that, so I definitely want to pick that up. So if there's one good thing about this book, it got me into Matt Fraction's The Defenders, so I'm definitely going to pick that up when I get a chance. This one wasn't as good. This one was written by Tom DeFalco, which he's a pretty famous name. At least I know him from like some encyclopedias and stuff. I haven't read anything he's written, but this one I was not a fan of because it was Ant-Man, and overall it wasn't like horrible, but against the origin of Ant-Man, and they go over like the same joke like 20 times, like because Ant-Man does this like thing where he talks to himself, and they say the same joke over and over and over again, and you just wanted to stop because Ant-Man's like, oh no, I'm talking to myself again, I must be crazy. It's like, okay, we get it, Hank, you're crazy. Ha 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 ha. It's hilarious. But yeah, that got old real quick. And there's kind of like a mystery about who killed his wife. Which is meh. But yeah, it's basically just the origins of Ant-Man, and jokes. I don't know. Mostly the jokes kind of like were annoying, and it was the origin of Ant-Man. That's all I can really say about that one. Not horrible. Definitely not my favorite one. And then the back of this one, I don't know what's in the back of this one because it's not really an Ant-Man story. It's what's this? It's the Avengers Academy #1, and Hank is in it for like a couple panels, while then like these new Avengers come to the scene and do their thing. Again, that was decent, I guess. That one kind of bored me too. So this one's just not very good. So that one's the third to last of my collection. And then we have Daredevil Season 1. This one I was really excited about, but this one also disappointed a lot. Yeah, I don't know. It goes over, like, we're having these, because Matt and Foggy are trying to, like, solve this case, and at the end it all comes to fruition, which isn't bad, but I don't know. There's a little Purple Man action. I almost forgot about that, actually. I didn't remember that was there. We have Purple Man. That's kind of a nice, like, nod, because I feel like he belongs in that section of the universe, the Marvel Universe, with Daredevil and Jessica Jones and stuff like that. And again, this one has, like, the same kind of tired joke of, like, some of the bad guys Daredevil's fighting are like, hey, is that Spider-Man? And they're like, no, it's not Spider-Man, I'm Daredevil. And that kind of gets tired, too. This one definitely has a lot of, like, guest appearances of the MCU. Not MCU, but the Marvel Universe, like the Fantastic Four, Purple Man. So, that's kind of a plus, but again, I don't know. I barely remember what happened in this one, if that tells you anything about that. It's kind of just like, you know, Daredevil solving crimes. You have the Enforcers. But yeah, I remember there's like a big case the Matt's trying to stop, and then he gets his red costume. And then at the end of this one, there is what's this guy's name? Mark Waid. There we go. At the end of this one, there's the Mark Waid run, #1. I've reviewed that on my channel. Not bad. Probably not like my favorite Daredevil or anything, but it wasn't a bad story. But yeah. Overall, this one is definitely like not the best one of the bunch. And then we get to the worst one of them all, Iron Man. This one, again, was really disappointing because, like, the back of it, I don't know, like, that's a decent picture, but the art looks so, like, there were some panels where I couldn't tell what was going on, because it's, like, it takes this really, like, weird, like, digital, like, painted style, and it looks just kind of just bad. It doesn't look good at all. Like, some things you can't tell what's going on. But, this one, I was reading the Amazon reviews, and this one kind of hit it on the head, because it was saying that there's just too much going on, because it goes over his origin, and it does, like, Demon in a Bottle at the same time. That kind of just forces, like, because Demon in a Bottle is, like, a big Iron Man event. It's a big story. And then when you put, like, his origin with the Demon in a Bottle, and just slam them together, then it's, like, it becomes a bit crowded. At least for my taste. So that kind of becomes annoying. And then again, I don't really remember who the villain is. Because again, it's a mess. And everything's kind of conflated together. And it's not, it's not good. Not good. And this one is the only one, for some reason, that doesn't have any story in the back of it. So, that's weird. But yeah, Iron Man's definitely the worst. So, to recap, Iron Man's the worst. The second worst is Daredevil. Then you have Ant-Man on top of that. Then Doctor Strange. Then the X-Men. Hulk. Thor. The Avengers. Wolverine. The Fantastic Four. And the best one is Spider-Man by Colin Bunn. So definitely, if you plan on checking these out, then you want to get Spider-Man, and maybe just leave it at there. Because I remember I've seen people talk about Spider-Man Season 1 on Instagram or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's another origin story, whatever. I could read it, give it a shot, heard it's good. And I was wondering about the others, and, you know, why I hadn't heard of those, and there's reason, because some of them just aren't as good as the Spider-Man one. Again, if you want to give them a shot, but again, like the Doctor Strange one, you could just read Matt Fraction's Defenders, and that's just as good. Better than the story. So, I know this is a long one. Thanks if you watched the whole thing. But if you didn't, I understand. Hopefully I don't get the Halloween curse, because usually every time I upload around Halloween, I get like 7 views. That's been the past 2 Halloweens. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, that's my countdown selection ranking of all the Marvel Season 1 books. Thank you.